Yo, Amateur Lore here, and it's time. Football season is here. So what better way to ease our way into the 2025 college football season than doing a little prediction slash preview video. Pretty much I'm going to go through every conference, picking a winner and giving a brief rundown on some teams I think can make some noise this year. These are just my opinions, so don't take them too seriously. Be sure to leave yours in the comments. I'd like to know what 12 teams you think can make the playoffs this year. Anyway, leave a like and a sub if you like the tent. Now let's jump right into the video. Okay, so to begin this 2025 college football season preview slash predictions video, I'm going to go conference by conference, giving my thoughts on some of the teams that I think can make some noise. Maybe make the playoffs and of course pick my conference winner in no particular order. Simple enough, right? Alright, so beginning with the Big Ten. First things first, do y'all think the national champion will come from the Big Ten again for the third straight year? If they were to pull that off, there'd be some real talks about the Big Ten maybe surpassing the SEC. So the Big Ten has 6 teams ranked inside of the top 25 coming into the year, them being Ohio State, Penn State, Oregon, Illinois, Michigan, and Indiana, with all of those teams having a good shot at making the college football playoffs. 3 teams not ranked inside of the top 25 that I think could sneak their way into the playoffs are USC, Nebraska, and Washington. I really think the Big Ten is going to be insanely deep this season. You have the dark horse tier of the conference with schools like Iowa, Washington, USC, and Nebraska. Then there's a tier of playoff contenders filled up by Illinois, Michigan, and Indiana, finally culminating in a tier with teams who could win the national title such as Penn State, Ohio State, and Oregon. I believe the Big Ten will get in at the very least 3 teams into the 2025 college football playoffs. Before I list my predictions, I peeped this little trend going on with the previous 2 national title winners, which were Georgia in 2022 and Michigan in 2023. So after both of these teams came off of winning the national championship, they both failed to make the college football playoffs the following year. Now, there were obviously a lot of factors that played into them not making the playoffs, but I'm going to roll with the trend and say Ohio State doesn't make the playoffs, bringing that streak to 3 years in a row, where the previous natty winner fails to make the playoffs. Buckeye fans, leave your mean comments down below. I have Illinois making it into the 12-team playoffs with an at-large bid going 10-2. They're ranked 12th to begin the season for a reason. This 10-win team from a year ago returns nearly all of their important pieces, with the word around Champaign being that this college football program is all in this year. So I'm buying this team's stocks. Next team from the Big Ten I have making the dance is Oregon, going 10-2 with an at-large bid. The Ducks made the transition no problem last year and looked incredible throughout the season, minus the playoffs of course. Yes, there's a lot of turnover on their roster to begin the new season, but it's Oregon. They're the Ohio State of the West Coast when it comes to recruiting and developing skill position talent. They're going to be just fine in my opinion. Those were my 2 at-large bids from the Big Ten. Now it's time for my Big Ten conference winner, Penn State. Now I'm fully prepared to look stupid 75% through the season, because man, when it comes to big games in Penn State, they just can't win them. Let's not be fooled by their deep run last season. If I'm being real, give Arizona State their path in the playoffs, they probably make it to the exact same spot as Penn State, maybe even further. The Nittany Lions are always a liability in big games, but man, something feels different this year in Happy Valley. This squad is loaded, and if they can finally get elite quarterback play, I think the sky is the limit for this Penn State football team, which is why I have them going 11-1, winning the Big Ten title and making the playoffs with an automatic bid. From a conference in the Big Ten that is extremely deep, we head over to the ACC, a pretty weak conference for the next part of this preview slash prediction video. I don't think it's a secret to anyone that the ACC is probably the weakest Power 4 conference right now, which means there's not going to be too many at-large bids going around the Atlantic coast. The ACC comes into the 2025 college football season with the least amount of teams ranked inside of the top 25 out of all the Power 4 conferences, only having 3 measly schools currently ranked, them being Clemson, Miami, and SMU. Now to be fair to the ACC, there are a couple of long shot teams I think that can make the playoffs, some of which are currently unranked. I'm going to just knock out my ACC champ now because there aren't too many teams I can see competing for the crown this season. So I got Clemson to win the ACC going 11-1, snatching up an automatic bid. Now I will say, if they were to win their week 1 game against LSU, and LSU were to finish out the season highly ranked, that could have a trickle down effect helping out some of the other ACC teams, but that might just be wishful thinking from me. When it comes to the other teams that could sneak their way into the 12th team, obviously you have Miami, Georgia Tech, Louisville, potentially even Duke, but I'm having a hard time pulling the trigger on any of them. You might have noticed no SMU, and yeah, I'm not too high on them this year. They were excellent last season, but with them losing their running back Brashard Smith, who played a huge role in their success, to the NFL, I think that loss will play a big part in them dropping off a little bit this year. If I have to put my bankroll on it, I only have Clemson making it to the 12-team playoffs from the ACC. Now hear me out, and this is not because I'm a Florida Gator fan, but I'm not really impressed with Miami. And this has nothing to do with the roster. Miami has always been able to recruit well and put together a roster full of future NFL players, but that coaching, I just don't trust Mario Cristobal. Y'all let me know down below in the comments if I'm the starting point guard for the University of Hate, home of the Fighting Haters, or if I'm speaking facts, but I always felt like Mario Cristobal was super overrated. In 7 years at Miami/Oregon, he has finished the season 1 time ranked inside of the top 15. He's had not 1 but 2 quarterbacks who were drafted 7th or better. Shit, with Beck it might even jump to 3, and yet he still doesn't have a playoff appearance to show for it, and I don't think that will change this year at all. I have Clemson winning the ACC with them being the only team to make it into the 12-team playoffs from the conference. Let's take a quick break from the big dog conferences of college football and slide our way over to a couple of the G5 leagues for the next part of this preview/prediction video. I want to start with the American Athletic Conference, which I just have to get this off my chest real quick. The realignment ruined one of the greatest conferences ever in my opinion. Don't get me wrong, I love that some of the schools that used to call this conference home are on to bigger and better things, but the AAC used to be hands down the best G5 conference, and nowadays they're just a relic from the past. Rant aside, the American looks pretty good this year, although they do not have any ranked teams coming into the season. That could easily change after the first couple of weeks, as Tulane and Memphis both received a couple of votes from the AP. There are about 5, maybe 6 teams I could see competing for the crown, them being in no particular order. Army, UTSA, USF, and Memphis are the teams who I could see competing for the conference title, but not having a good enough overall record with enough big wins to make the 12-team playoffs. Navy and Tulane, on the other hand, all have a chance, if things play out right, at winning the conference and potentially claiming that G5 auto bid to the 12-team playoffs. Navy looks poised for another 10-win season, returning nearly all of their important running back/receivers as well as their QB, who was insanely productive last season. Their schedule sets up nice, with the only tough non-conference game being a matchup in the middle of the season on the road at Notre Dame. If they only lose to Notre Dame competitively and run the table, it's going to be tough to keep them out. However, I don't see that happening, as I have Tulane winning the American Athletic Conference going 10-2. I think they lose to Ole Miss and fumble a game in the American at some point in the season, and 2 losses for a G5 school would not be enough to get them in, so this goes without saying the American isn't going to be producing any playoff teams this season. Look out for Tulane though. I hope I'm wrong and they somehow sneak into the 12 team. Alright, leaving the American, the next conference up is the Mountain West, and right off the back there are a couple of teams right now in the Mountain West that I think can make the playoffs. When it comes to the conference where ball is played in the mountains, I think they have by far the best shot at getting a team into the college football playoffs out of all the G5 conferences. This conference kind of has 3 real contenders and then a bunch of good teams. I expect Colorado State, Hawaii, and Air Force to be good, but they all feel like 7-win teams to me. The real upper echelon of this conference are UNLV, Boise State, and San Jose State. Any one of these 3 teams can make some noise. UNLV is going to be good this year. I got them winning around 8 to 9 games, but I think they're a year away from really competing. They lost a lot of production, but have brought back in some good replacements, and Dan Mullen, of course. He's my favorite coach of all time, and the best play caller in college football if you ask me, so don't be shocked if they maybe win 10 games. In Dan's first year with Florida, he won 10 games, so history could repeat itself. San Jose State, on the other hand, they're going to be scary this season. The offense looks legit even though they lost Nash to the NFL. What they brought back and recruited through the transfer portal looks promising. The offense is going to be a lot more balanced, and word around campus is the defense might be a strength this year, so watch out, they could make some noise, and I have them making it to the Mountain West title game, but losing to, of course, the kings of the G5, the Boise State Broncos, who I have going 11-1, winning the conference and making the college football playoffs. There's a reason the only G5 school to be ranked this season was Boise State, sitting nice and pretty perched at the 25th spot in the AP polls. Yes, they lost their Heisman runner-up running back to the NFL, but they returned a lot of production with a running back room that looks loaded for this upcoming season. I love their coaching staff, I love Boise State. What else is there to say? I got them winning the conference and making it to the 12-team playoffs. Who else is ready for some action? One of my favorite things about college football are those random Wednesday night games between 2 MAC schools. I don't know why, it might be the footballs they're using, but I swear some of the craziest games I've ever seen in my life came from the Bernie Mac conference, and I can't wait to see some more nonsense this year as well. That was all a terrible segue to the next conference up in this little prediction video, the MAC conference. The MAC does not have any real college football playoff contenders in my opinion. Western Michigan fan Jim Harbaugh stole signs 445, go ahead and go off in the comments. Anyway, yeah, I don't see any of the MAC teams making a serious push for the 2025 12-team playoffs. But please do not get it twisted, I say that more because I think the MAC this year is going to be a bloodbath, with all the teams just holding each other back from playoff consideration like a bucket of crabs. There are a decent amount of teams I can see winning 8 to 10 games and competing for the MAC title. The MAC is really deep, with teams such as Northern Illinois, Toledo, Central Michigan, Miami, Ohio, and Buffalo, all having their own claims to why they should be the preseason favorites to win the MAC. For the Huskies, they're losing a lot of production, only returning about 5 starters, so while they can compete, ultimately I see them falling short because of the lack of continuity. I love Toledo and think they will be in a lot of games and win a lot of games this year, but I'm worried about their run defense, and in a conference loaded with tons of star running backs, you need a solid run fit to make noise. For Central Michigan and Miami, Ohio, I like these squads to win about 8 games, but I can't see them outperforming that, not this year. The 2 teams I do have battling it out for the MAC, Crown, are Ohio and Buffalo. Ohio right now, to me, are the big dogs of the MAC. They have had 3 straight 10-win seasons and are looking to make it a 4th. I really like the culture they're building over there, and their starting QB is poised for a breakout season in 2025. Then there's Buffalo. They're led by a veteran quarterback who's been around the block a couple of times. They have the potential to play some elite defense this season if everything pans out, but ultimately I have the Ohio Bobcats claiming the MAC title with a record of 10-3. I think they make it 4 straight seasons of 10 or more wins. Rollerblading from the MAC, let's head over to the Wild West or the Big 12 for my next conference prediction. Quick side note, I will not be mentioning who I think will win the Big 12 because this season I plan on covering the conference week by week, showing the highlights from every Big 12 game, so that's something to look forward to during the season. One of the reasons I chose this conference to focus on during the season is because it's going to be chaos in the best way possible. When you look at the Big 12, there are legit so many teams who can win the conference crown, probably the most out of every conference. Coming into the 2025 season, the Big 12 has 4 schools ranked inside of the top 25 to begin the year, them being Arizona State, Kansas State, Iowa State, and Texas Tech. Legit, any one of those schools could win the Big 12, and I wouldn't be mad if you chose them. But let's not forget, last year's champ was predicted to finish like 15th or 16th in the Big 12, so just because you're not ranked right now does not mean you can't win it. Off the top, teams like Utah, Baylor, TCU, BYU, and Colorado could all make a run at the title if things go right. The top half of the Big 12 is so even, with the only team really a cut above the rest being Arizona State. There isn't going to be much room for error during Big 12 play, as most of these teams are so close talent-wise that I'm sure a lot of these games this season are going to come down to the wire. Oh yeah, I can't forget about the conference long shots like UCF, West Virginia, Oklahoma State, and Houston. I don't really see any of these schools making too much noise this year. I feel like the teams I listed at the beginning of this entry are the real pick of the litter, but when it comes to Big 12 football, when I say anything goes, I mean it. We all saw what happened with Arizona State last season, so I wouldn't be shocked if one of those teams I have finishing in the bottom half of the Big 12 actually were to run the gauntlet and find a way to sneak their way into the 12 team. It's college football, anything can happen. Right now, I have 2 Big 12 teams making the college football playoffs. One of them obviously being the conference winner, which I'm not going to mention because I'll be covering the entire season. But I will name the other team who I think will make the 12 team without winning the conference. TCU. I have the TCU Horned Frogs going 10-2, maybe 10-3, losing in the title game, but I have them making the dance with an at-large bid. Last year, the Frogs had one of the quietest 9-win seasons in the country. The Horned Frogs have studs all over the field. One of the main reasons I chose them is because their schedule gives them enough opportunity to rack up quality wins and their quarterback Josh Hoover. I liked him last year, and I think this year he takes a big jump up, unlocking his team's full potential. The Big 12 this year is going to be nuts. I can't wait. Okay, so we have one Power 4 conference left to cover, but before we do that, let's finish up the rest of the G5 conferences. We're going to do the Sun Belt real quick and then Conference USA before we move on to the SEC. When it comes to the Sun Belt, like I mentioned already before in this video, besides the Mountain West, I don't really see any other G5 conferences making a serious push for the G5 auto bid, besides maybe the American Athletic and Tulane. When it comes to the Sun Belt, I think the favorite to win is pretty clear, well, at least to me. But before I spoil it, let me shout out some teams I think can compete for that victory royale. I think Georgia Southern, Louisiana, and Texas State are all teams who could sneak their way up in the Sun Belt standings throughout the year, maybe finding themselves in the title game, maybe. But to be real, I think the Sun Belt is going to be pretty chalk, with it coming down to 2 teams, South Alabama and James Madison. The Jags return a pretty veteran running back, some key O-line pieces, as well as a defense that looks to make some noise this year. They added a couple of players in the transfer portal on that side of the ball, and if they live up to their potential, watch out. I have them making the title game but losing to the James Madison Dukes, who I have going 9-3. Their QB, if healthy this season, looks to be one of the best in all of the G5. Their running back room is not one of the best in the G5. They're one of the best running back rooms in the country. The culture they built in Harrisonburg is something special to me, and I think they win the Sun Belt this season. One last G5 conference to go, and it's America's Conference, Conference USA. We're going to keep this prediction extremely brief because my eyes and ears haven't really been too tuned into what this conference had going on all offseason. If there's one thing I do know, or at least one thing I strongly believe in, that is that the Liberty Flames are hands down the team to beat in Conference USA. Now let's address the elephant in the room. Yes, their star QB is now playing with Colorado and Dion, and they're going to have to replace some O-line pieces, but their running back stable looks hungry and ready to go, and their replacement for Caden Salters, Ethan Vasco, transferred from Coastal Carolina, is solid. I'm not saying he's the next Malik Willis, but I think he can steer the ship in a good direction, putting this Flame squad in a pretty good position to win the Conference USA title. I have Liberty going 11-1 and winning the CUSA crown. The SEC, the big boys of college football. Man, this conference is loaded like a rifle for the 2025 college football season, having not 5, not 6, not even 7, but 10 ranked teams in the preseason top 25. Them being Texas, Georgia, Bama, LSU, South Carolina, Florida, Oklahoma, Texas A&M, Ole Miss, and Tennessee. What the hell? I'm not too sure, but this has to be some kind of record, right? Can someone in the comments tell me what's the most SEC teams to be ever ranked inside of the preseason AP Top 25? Okay, so I just looked it up. It actually is a record. Holy. I can't say I'm too shocked though, because you know the NCAA watches the SEC boxers every Saturday. Anyway, when it comes to teams in this conference that can make a run for the college football playoffs, literally you can toss in every team I just named plus schools such as Auburn and Vandy. There are going to be absolutely no off weeks in the SEC, and I cannot wait. The contenders for making the playoffs to me are Auburn, Oklahoma, Texas A&M, Tennessee, and Ole Miss. Any one of these teams can make a run for the playoffs. When it comes to competing for the conference crown, that is a whole nother tier of teams such as Florida, South Carolina, and LSU. I think those teams can make a run at the SEC crown and make the playoffs, but that's where it stops. Leading us up to the final tier of teams who can win the national title, we have schools like Texas, Bama, and Georgia. LSU fans, I know you guys probably think you're in that top tier, but until Brian Kelly can go a season without losing 3 games, and especially losing in a week 1 game, I can't put them in the national title contender tier. Did y'all know LSU hasn't won their first game of the season since they won the national title? I know, crazy, right? My predictions for the SEC are that 4 teams make the college football playoffs. I don't know the exact record I'm going for with these squads, but I have South Carolina making it into the dance. Their QB is a star. I love the dude, and if they continue the momentum from last season, look out. I also have Bama making it in. I know last year they had their ups and downs, but the more I learn about this Bama team, the more I'm buying in. Early into the offseason, I was not so high on them, but I can admit I was wrong. And finally, our last at-large bid, I got the Florida Gators making it into the 2025 12 team. Say what you want, the O-line and D-line are made for SEC play, the running back room is looking outstanding, and of course my knight in shining armor, DJ Lagway, is the best QB in the SEC, and this year he'll show the world why they need to stop sleeping on him. Those are my at-larges. To win the SEC, I have Texas. I know pretty chalk, but they're extremely stacked, and if Arch is 20% of the QB the media is making him out to be, then we're all in for some real trouble. Oh yeah, I forgot, I'm only at 11 teams right now for the playoffs, but I also have Notre Dame making it in again, going 11-1. This is a conference preview / prediction video, and Notre Dame doesn't play in a damn conference. So yeah, these are my 12 teams, minus the Big 12 champ. We won't find that out until the end of the season.